All right. We are back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It's Wednesday, Wanderlust Wednesday here in the cave. Mark, how can there be any more music left for you to talk about on Wanderlust Wednesday? Is it possible? Where do you get your stuff? There's always stuff up here, but what's fun is when you find new music that you've never heard before, whether it's new or old, but something you've never heard before. And that doesn't happen a ton to me. But when I find something, hear it and like it, it's so exciting. And that's what we're talking about today. Are you excited? I know you're excited, right? Everybody excited? Studio audience, you all excited? Everyone's excited. Check under your chair. And there's a 45 under there. Anyway, so what are we talking about today? Well, as I said, music nowadays, I'm not getting music that I've never heard before from radio or anything like that. For the last 10 or 15 years, I've been getting it from the likes of Pandora or satellite Sirius XM. That's been a huge source of my music I've never heard before by bands. But ever since COVID, really, it's been TV, Netflix, Hulu. All these shows are doing an awesome job with music, soundtracks, whether they're songs you know or don't know, but they're just really hitting it out of the park, just like movie soundtracks. I argued, is the movie soundtrack dead on an episode earlier this year, and I still stick to that, but it's not the movie soundtrack that is alive. It's the TV shows. It's the streaming shows, if I'm saying that right. Anyway, that's where we're getting our music, whether you're getting Kate Bush from Stranger Things. We remember years ago we got, what was that song? Like a Stone? What was that? Like a Stone? That was on one of the TV shows. Anyway, and sometimes we would make playlists on Hulu from some shows that were so good. So what am I talking about, Mark? You're almost at 3 minutes, but we're talking about the show The Bear. You guys watching The Bear? Raise your hands. Great show. We finished season 1 quite a while ago. We are just 3/4 of the way through season 2, so there's people ahead of us, and what a season this is. So good. Fun fact, for those of you not in the know, Jeremy Allen White, the Bear, is a relation of our extended family. That's the easiest way to put it. Cousins, nephew. Anyway, met him a few times. He's a good guy. And the other interesting thing is some of the family pictures in the show are actually his family, real photos. So like a grandmother's sister is his parents. His grandmother is a sister of a grandmother on the side of my wife's side of the family. It's like this. It's like this. But anyway, that's a fun fact for those of you who didn't know. But anyway, The Bear. I mean, great show. If you haven't watched it, you got to watch it. It's so good. But the music is killing it. And at first, I was going to just do this one song. And then the more episodes we watch, I keep just Shazam. So we'll talk about some of the other songs. We're still going to stick to one song in particular, but maybe two. But we've heard, I'm so excited. We've heard The Replacements, Can't Hardly Wait on here. That's so good. We heard Total Control by the Motels. That's a deep cut. I've done that on Wanderlust Wednesday. But when I heard the first two notes, I was like, Total Control, the Motels. This is an awesome song. Whoever's doing the music, I agree, because that song you don't hear anywhere. And that's a favorite song of mine by far. If you don't know Total Control by the Motels, you're listening to that today. Last night when we watched an episode, we heard some new music. I think relatively new. Throw Your Arms Around Me. Neil Finn and Eddie Vedder. Neil Finn from Split Enz and Crowded House. Doing a great song with Eddie Vedder. I mean, any song with Eddie Vedder, right? Lay My Love by Brian Eno and John Cale. That was another good one. We've heard a David Byrne song on there. Yeah, so anyway, but this song came on, and it was just a snippet, and I was like, what's this? This is interesting. It's punk, but it's not punk. It's something else. What is it? So I had to read about it. I had to look it up. And it's basically this band called Refused and a song called New Noise. And digging it. Shared it with Paul Chabot, who are Refused. Swedish hardcore. The second most famous Swedish hardcore after the 1970s. Swedish hardcore punk in the 90s. Again, Swedish hardcore punk in the 90s, not to be confused with Swedish hardcore of the 70s. Big difference, people. But this band formed in the 90s, 1991, and they did their usual thing. They did EP in 93, a full album in 93, another EP, an album, EP, and independent label. And they put out this incredible album in 1998, The Shape of Punk to Come, which was internationally recognized. It was an instant hit in the punk world, but they broke up soon thereafterwards. They were having a rough time because they were very politically motivated and focused, and they just the political views they had did not mix with fame, and they broke up. It reminds me of Fugazi over here, only in that Fugazi, they didn't really want it. They didn't want T-shirts. Remember that famous "This is not a Fugazi" T-shirt, that kind of thing. But I read an interview with the singer, and he said basically there was a huge disconnect between them and the hardcore scene, because in '96 I think they toured the United States, and they came, and the people who they aligned with politically, which was to the left, didn't really care for the fact that they were signed for Victory Records, which I needed to read some more about, because how do they know? Why do they care what label they were on? But anyway, but their music wasn't just punk either. It was metal sounding, and the people who liked the heavier metal stuff didn't like the politics of the band, so they were stuck. They didn't have anywhere to go. So they had. You can read a lot about their politics on here, and this highly motivated them in their early 20s. But basically, ultimately, it was their demise. And this video for this song, New Noise, came out right after they broke up, and it kind of broke. But they were like, when people were interested in them, like, nope, we're done. They shut things down. The police shut down their very last show in Virginia, October 6, 1998. And they put out a press release that included something to the effect of, "Refused are fucking dead," quote unquote. But going back to that 1998 release, The Shape of Punk to Come, they were not just a punk band. They were introducing jazz and a little bit of like electronica in there and fusion with punk. I mean, this song does that. Someone called it the single most influential rock album of the last 20 years with this review. How about that? And we've not heard of this before. They did reunite in 2012. They did a few one-offs, and then they did do a new album that was supposedly is equally as good as their other stuff in 2015 called Freedom. So that's worth checking out. I'm going to do that myself. But this song, New Noise, it's got some remixes on it. Paul Chabot, after I shared it with you, you sent it to me. That's got to check that out. But don't give up on the screaming. There's a lot of screaming at first, but it does not all just that. You got to stick through the whole song. It's worth it, and so is the video. So that is your song of the day right there. But I do have to get honorable mention today. We're at 9 minutes, just like the old days. This song came on, and I was like, "What's this? Shazam!" And it's the Buzzcocks, "Why Can't I Touch It?" Never heard that before. I've heard of the Buzzcocks. I didn't know anything of their music. English punk band. But this one's from 1978. 20 years earlier, the bass line started, and I was like, whatever this is, I dig it. Cool drums, punk. Formed in 1976. Power pop melodies. They put out the same thing, EP, 4-track EP in 1976 on their own label. One of the first, if not the first, punk band to put out their own record on their own label. Pioneers. They had a handful of top hits in the UK, by 81 they were done. The song they're probably best known for is Fallen in Love, F-A-L-L-E-N, Fallen in Love, so check that out. But Buzzcocks, Why Can't I Touch It? I played that one 10 times this week in the car. So that's another one you're checking out today. I also heard REM, because we haven't finished the season. REM makes a comeback on one of the episodes. So, I mean, I don't know how REM needs to make a comeback, because they're always awesome and they're always great. But apparently we're going to hear an REM song that is getting some airtime because of it. So that's what you're checking out. Music from the Bear. Doing a great job. I can't wait to watch the rest of these episodes. The Christmas episode, amazing, by the way. Nailed it. But so good. So you're checking out Refused. You're checking out Buzzcocks. You're checking out Total Control by the Motels. Little Neil Finn and Eddie Vedder. Brian Eno and John Cale. Replacements if you want. If you don't know, Can't Hardly Wait. Whew. 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Sorry, guys. That's what you get on Wanderlust Wednesday today. A little bit longer episode, but whatever you're doing today, I hope it involves music. Check all that stuff out. We got that one done. That's one in the can, so crank it, crank it, crank it. And as usual, I'll catch you on the flip side.